Hello, everyone, and a warm welcome to our monthly Shadowmatch System Support and Navigation webinar. It's great to see all of you. I see some new names, so a warm welcome to you as well. We have these sessions once a month, the first Wednesday of every month. And the purpose of these sessions is to equip you as a user of the Shadowmatch system with knowledge about the system, about the things that you know, probably things and functionalities on the system that you use on a daily basis, but also the not so used functionalities on the system. So these sessions are for you to also engage. Towards the end of the session, I will enable the setting for you to unmute your microphone and you can then ask system related questions. You're welcome to, in the meantime, I'm the host. My name's Lizette de Villiers. I will be manning the chat. So you're welcome to also post some questions that you might have in the chat. I will respond and I also present the questions to our presenter towards the end of our webinar. As you know that we are recording these sessions, you would have noticed that this one's also recorded. The previous sessions for the system webinars that we've had since January, you can find on the Shadowmatch events calendar. So if you go to shadowmatch.com or shadowmatch.co.za and you click on the events tab, you can really just tab back to the previous months, and the first Wednesday of every month where you found today's Zoom link, you will then find the YouTube link for that specific recording. I know Suzanne will also say and also mention, but if you have any specific requests with regards to things that you want to know more of, with regards to the use of the Shadowmatch system or the application of the system in your business, you are welcome to let us know. You can send an email to info@shadowmatch.co.za or alternatively, info@shadowmatch.com. I think lastly from my side, please keep in mind that we also share new developments and we also answer questions that we have received from our consultants and our clients in these sessions. As I said, my name's Lizette de Villiers. Suzanne Conradi, she's the General Manager at Shadowmatch. She will be leading the session this afternoon, and we will have some time towards the end to take live questions. Thank you very much, Suzanne. Over to you. Enjoy the session.
Thank you, Lizette. Good afternoon, everyone. It's lovely to have you. Thanks for joining our first Wednesday of the month session. We're glad you're here. And as Lizette said, these sessions are for you. It's a resource for you. It's for free. And please make part of this opportunity to send through any questions you might have on your side. If there's any function you're uncertain about or curious about, or would just like to see explained in a bit more detail, please send that through to info and then we can make sure it becomes part of our agenda. So for today, the content was informed by the May newsletter that went out. And I spoke to you about this in the last session, that in the newsletters, we have quizzes. And it's open to anybody to partake in, and the winner then gets a great prize. So the quiz in last month, the winner got a Takealot voucher. So very excited for the individual. And the content of these questions we use to see, okay, but what are the users familiar with and comfortable with? And some of the other content of today was just informed by questions we received throughout the month. So please send in your questions and we can plan it for the next session. So let's take a look at what we are going to be working through today. Let me share my screen. Great, and let's open up that agenda. Okay, so for today, just 4 topics, but 4 quite robust topics. So we have a few things to go through. The first one is the benchmark lock function on the Shadowmatch system interface. Then we're going to be taking a look at the detail of the subgroups in the team analysis functionality. And then the profile fields for individual details. This is when you send out a worksheet, the details that's captured for specific individuals. And then the last topic for today would be the interview pack functionality. So as always, I'll be working in a fictitious company with fictitious data, but I'm on the live system. So everything I'm doing today, you'll be able to do on your side with your own data, same buttons, same great functions. So you're welcome to go and play around and see after the session if you're also comfortable with these options. So the first one we're looking at is the benchmark lock function. So before I actually get into this on the system, let's just take a moment to go back to the basics of our theory. So we're going to be looking at an option to lock a benchmark. So let's just quickly remember what is a benchmark and how does this work. So I want to show a quick 2-minute video to you, but see where I'm going to find it, because you also have access to these videos on your side. I'm going to click on the need help option button. I'm logged in. I'm looking at my company setup on the live system. So this will obviously reflect your data, the organogram you created on your side. And now I have access to my need help button, either here at the top, at the very bottom here at the question mark, and this would open up a library of resources for me as a user to help me with different functions. So you heard something about a benchmark, something in a session, you're not sure what that is. So you can use this option here to say, okay, what is a benchmark? How does it work? So I'm searching and it's bringing up the videos applicable to whatever I'm typing in. And you see it's nice and interactive. I haven't even completed the whole word and it's already picking that up. And the video we're looking at today is the principles of benchmarks. So I click on the video and it opens up the video on YouTube. Great. Let's just use this one here. Great, and play.
One of the important functions of Shadowmatch is to create optimal behavior benchmarks of successful people in a specific role in a specific environment. This is the most reliable way to determine the unique combination of behaviors necessary for a specific task or role. Workplaces and work content are environment specific. Office work, engineering work, the work of a sports professional, artistic work, studying, singing in a choir, and many more are all regarded as jobs. Every working environment is unique. Even tasks that seem to be similar are different. Let's look at an example. A successful teacher that teaches in a stable, middle-income school where parents are positive about the school and their children will not necessarily be successful in a community that experiences high levels of stress and tough living conditions. Can we use the same benchmark to recruit for both schools? No. To recruit teachers for these two different environments, two different benchmarks are needed. Every job and every environment is unique, and a unique composition of behaviors is necessary for success in every working environment. Remember, to appoint somebody who is not a good match to the benchmark is not only a risk to the individual, but also to the team and the business. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. This is directly applicable to people working together. Shadowmatch prevents this, and it ensures a well-informed selection process. The success of a business is directly related to the success of its people. Jobs are unique. Workplaces are unique. People are unique. Shadowmatch brings all these unique realities together to ensure success.
Okay, so the benchmarking function in Shadowmatch is one of the core functionalities of the system. Very important, very valuable, as you saw in the video. But as if anything, if you give garbage to the system, you'll receive garbage. So you need to make sure you're informing the system with the correct individuals to go and create those amazing benchmarks and get that unique insight into your context. So to ensure that you understand that this is a very important function, we've included a benchmark lock function that allows you to make sure that benchmark is locked, it's secured, and the data is kept as is. And you'll see if that benchmark isn't locked, it's even going to block you to request reports that are informed of this benchmark, because we want to help guide you to make sure you're happy with those benchmarks and they are updated and correct. So a benchmark you create in any of the files by selecting individuals and including them in a benchmark. I'm going to go to finance in our little demo file here, and I've included people in my benchmark. And if I click on the Shadowmatch benchmark in my left main menu, it opens up the benchmark. And as you know, this will be unique for each role. But the button we're focusing on today is this one here. So at this stage, my benchmark is unlocked. So that means it can be changed, it can be updated by any of the other users also working in this file. So it's not secure, it's not sorted, and it's that last final tick isn't made. A benchmark is informed by the top performers in a role. You identify the top performers outside the system. You say, okay, which of the individuals perform in this specific role, as specific as possible to make that as accurate as possible. So you've informed the system, these 3 individuals are currently performing in this environment. So a lot of work and thought goes into this until you get it up to this point where the benchmark is created. So you want to make sure that work is protected. Now, the good thing is the actual lock function is very easy. You simply click the button. So just want to show you what happens here is if I click on it, it's going to show that it's now locked by the user that locked the benchmark. I'm currently Sue Stone, and I've locked this benchmark. So it's now locked like this. And if any other user also working in this file, so maybe we have various system users in our file, our whole HR department has access. And if another user would click on this, they will not be able to unlock it because I'm the individual that vetted and worked on this benchmark and it's sorted and ready for action. If I want to unlock it, however, it's very easy. I simply click on it again and it unlocks it. So for me as the user, it's a very easy function to lock and unlock, but it's such a critical step because it's an important step. So if other user would click on that, you won't be able to unlock it. We'll take a look at that in just a moment. So if the benchmark is locked, you'll be able to request all of the reports that are informed by the benchmark. And the reason we also put this extra step in there is to say you don't want to request a report, maybe a match against the benchmark, or maybe a work match report informing a user about how they compare to a benchmark. Send them that benchmark and someone goes and changes the benchmark tomorrow and sends them a report again, and now they receive different information because the benchmark sound information is so critical to get that accurate data there. You need to make sure that it's actually that valid benchmark. So yeah, so I've repeated this many times, but you understand how important that step is. So if it's unlocked and I want to go and request a report, see what happens. If I'm going to go to applicants, and let's say we go to Fred's result here at the top, we go to results, and we click on a matching report, for instance, the report that informs me what this individual, how he's matched against that benchmark. Look at the message that the system gives me on the screen. And as in Shadowmatch, remember to read, the system will guide you exactly what needs to what happens. It says matching report for Fred Flintstone. This report will only be generated if the benchmark for finance is locked. To view the benchmark, click here. So this is now warning me to say, remember, this report is informed by the benchmark. Are you sure this benchmark is sorted and valid and it is the correct information before you send out or before you generate this report? So do you see it's guiding me towards best practice? But great, yes, okay, great. I want to request this report. There we go. I take a quick look at the benchmark. I see, great. Is this benchmark still valid? Yes. These 3 individuals are still the top performers in this environment. They're still currently in the role. They're still performing. We just looked at the performance scores. We're happy. It's not an outdated benchmark from 5 years ago. Current data, happy. And the moment I then click lock, I will be able to request that report. So if you just want to close the loop, let's do exactly the same thing. We click on Fred, we click on the results. And if I now click on matching report, it's going to open up the report for me because my benchmark was locked. So if you ever see a message like that on the screen, prompting you to the benchmark, did you see how easy it was? I simply needed to lock the benchmark. Let's just take a quick look at what happens if we're more than one user in the company. What then happens with this benchmark lock option if it's locked by someone else? So for this, I'm going to go to our sales department. So I'm going to use my top option here, click on sales. And if I then go to my Shadowmatch benchmark, you'll see it was locked by a different user. So the user was Suzanne Conradi. She locked this benchmark. She's also working in this company. Obviously, this is me. I've locked this session before, but for play for today, I'm Sue and Suzanne locked the benchmark. Now I'm logged in with my user details. I'm Sue. And now I want to unlock this benchmark. And if I click on the button, the system will give me this message. And once again, maybe take a quick read and see what the system says. Request benchmark to be unlocked. This benchmark was locked by this specific user. It will show you who was the user and can only be unlocked by them. You can also make a request for the benchmark to be unlocked by Shadowmatch head office. if she is not available for some reason. So hopefully the users within your organization, you'll be able to quickly ask Suzanne, listen, I need to work on the sales benchmark. It's not updated. I need to be able to update it. So please go and unlock, and she can unlock it from her side. But you see there, you have the option. Let's say that user is no longer with the company, or she's on leave, or whatever the reason might be. You can simply select the option here, and then you can request, submit a message to the head office to say, this is currently the situation, please assist. So there is that option in this. You will also be prompted with a message like this if you want to go and change something in a locked benchmark. So this is also a protection of the validity of that benchmark, because once you've locked it, you've said, you're happy with this data, it's current, relevant, it's supposed to stay like this until we review it again. So if another user tries to go and fiddle with the benchmark and move results out or add someone and it's locked, it's going to tell them, this is a locked benchmark, this first needs to be unlocked. So this is just protecting the validity of that locked benchmark. So for instance, let's say I want to move out this individual, select this individual, and I'm going to move them. So I use my actions button here, click on move. So they're currently in that locked benchmark, it's using the data there. And I'm going to say, no, let's move them all the way out. Now the system gives me this message to say, okay, this move is first stopped because some of the individuals you want to move or copy are part of this benchmark. So it's guiding you to say, listen, this individual is part of the locked benchmark. If you want to change this, first unlock. And obviously now, because it wasn't locked by me, it's guiding me to ask that other individual. And once again, I have that option to say, if that other individual isn't available, that message can be prompted. And if that happens, you'll see it's going to give you a nice option here to just contact the head office. It'll pre-populate the reason for you why you want to unlock this benchmark. We'll receive the email and we can assist if not possible. But plan A is obviously just to ask the other user, quickly unlock, because we need to change this benchmark. Great. Okay, so that's your benchmark lock option. You'll see it's the reason we created it as a compulsory setting for those reports is to help guide you to make sure you're not sending conflicting reports and that you're using this important data in the best practice way. So yeah, it's just a check from our side, but the actual option, as you saw, very easy. Simply click the button or unclick the button to unlock. Okay, so that was our first function. The next few topics were informed by the quiz. So if you did partake in the May quiz, some of these questions might ring a bell with you. The first one we want to look at is the team subgroups function. So if you joined us last month, we actually did a whole session on the whole team functionality in detail, everything about how it's created and what the team analysis actually helps you with. So I'm not going to be repeating that content. You are able to find this on your events calendar, as Lizette said at the start. Just go back to last month's session and watch the recording. So just to save time and to make sure we have enough time to focus on today's content, I'm just going to look at that one specific function in the team analysis. So the question in the quiz was, there was a list of subgroups and specific functional entities, and you had to select the ones that weren't part of the shadow match subgroups on the team analysis. So this was the question that actually had the worst scoring. The individuals struggled the most with this question, and that's why it's included in today's function. So let's go and take a look at what are the subgroups and how is it of value to you as a user. So once again, just logged into fictitious company, and to find my teams, as you know from last time, we click on our main menu here. There's a whole icon there just listing all of my teams. And the moment I click on a team, it's going to open up the teams created in my entity. You can create any team by including any individuals, clicking on your button and saying add to team. So there is an option to do that. But for now, we have an existing team, and everything you see on the screen today, we unpacked in detail in the previous session. The function we're going to look at today is this, the group overview. If you click on this, it's opening up subgroups created by the shadow match system functionality. So As you know, with shadow match, the construct we're working with is the habits of the individual, so the intensities of the specific behavioral patterns prevalent in the way they engage with the environment. And these subgroups are informed by these habits to say, if we just look at these habits, what would be the natural role or function that the individual would fulfill in this specific team? So these subgroups are dependent on which other team members are also included in this team. Some of these roles are always relevant for that individual. They'll always fulfill that function in a specific team if their habits are so strong for that specific role that they will always fulfill that. What I mean by this is that these subgroups are informed by specific habits in the back end. And there's a specific cutoff point to say, to be in this specific subgroup, you need to have a score of A for habit B, and you need to have a score of B for habit C. So there's specific scoring that informs this. And if you have habits to that extent, you will be able to fulfill that role naturally within the team. So before we look at the subgroups, let's just understand what these specific colorings of the group mean. And we have a nice legend here on the left. So it's showing us the group strength indicators, everything from very strong, and then all of the different options there. So the color is informed by the congruency or similarity of the habits of the individuals in that subgroup. For instance, if we look at something like the green option here, the very strong subgroup, it means there's a very close alignment between the unique habits of the individual, a lot of touch points between this, so they have similar habits in the way they approach their environment. So if they work together, it's a very strong, closely knitted congruency in the habits. The moment we get to our next level, that's strong, the one that's here in orange, for instance, we have an example there on the right. In that case, there's similarities in the habits that informs this specific subgroup. So to be part of this specific subgroup, there is similarity in the habits, but the other habits are a bit more diverse. So it's not as closely congruent as with a very strong group, a bit more diversity in the rest of the habits, but still it would be, all of those individuals would be in that specific subgroup. If there's a subgroup with more than one individual in, and the coloring is gray, you'll see it's then functional when necessary. In that case, the individuals have the same habits to be in that specific subgroup, but the rest of the habits are very diverse. It's more unique for the other habits, not informing that specific subgroup. In our example here, we don't have a gray group with more than one individual in. And then obviously, if there's just one individual there, there isn't a strength between two individuals. That's why it's just shown like this in gray. And if we were to have a subgroup with no individuals in, it would have been shown in red, as we see in the legend. Okay, what are these subgroups and what do they mean for us? So there's 7 specific subgroups and they each show a specific role in the team. To explain these subgroups, I'm going to use an analogy of a specific task or mandate that this team needs to fulfill. This is a fictitious analogy just to show you, okay, how would each of these subgroups function? So let's say this team has the task to deliver a truck with supplies up into Africa. So they need to make sure this truck with supplies reaches the destination en route in Africa to a different country. That's all they need to do. Who's gonna do what? So the first subgroup, the action and task group, will start packing the truck. They're gonna say, listen, we need to deliver this truck with the supplies. Let's get the supplies into the truck. We're going to say we don't need another strategy meeting or another discussion around this. Let's actually go over into action. So they're going to pick up the box and actually put it into the truck. That's your action and task group. And as you see, if I hover over a group and I touch it, it'll show you on the left which individuals in this specific team is in that subgroup. So our first subgroup, action and task group, we've discussed. Our next subgroup, the cautious group, what are they going to do in this scenario? They're going to say, whoa, I see you packing the truck, but do we have a spare tire for this truck? Are we going to need permits at the borders? Are the permits all in place? Are we going into a malaria area? Did someone check if we need to take medication? So they naturally, the risks or the possible issues that can arise are in the front of their mind. So they're naturally voicing that red flag, or that just a quick break to say, okay, guys, did we check this before we just jumped off this bridge? So a very, very vital role within the team to say, okay, just check, do we have everything in place? Do we have the spare tire before we go on the strip? Yes or no? Right. Your problem solvers are then the one that, if you didn't listen to the cautious group and you didn't pack the spare tire, they're going to solve the problem if you now have a flat tire in the middle of Botswana, in the middle of the desert. So they are energized by solving problems. They might be doing Sudoku as you're on this journey. So the solving of problems energize them, and they naturally look for the solutions of problems. So a natural problem solver seeing the solutions to problems. Your adventure and change group, they're going to say, okay, great, guys, we did this last year as well. We had this whole same task that we need to deliver. And then we went through Zimbabwe. So maybe we can change the route and we go through Zambia. So we deliver the same thing, but we don't have to do it in the same way. They change it up a bit to say we can take a different approach to this. So they just see it a bit differently, but still the same thing is going to be delivered in their mind, but they changing the style up a bit to say, let's have a adventurous or a other way of delivering this. So they position a different route to take in this. Now, your independent group are the individuals that say, I'm able to take a bird's eye view of this team. I hear what you're saying. I hear that we're working together, but I can work for the team. I don't necessarily have to work so closely in congruence with the team. So I have that very valuable option of seeing that bird's eye view of the team to say, you know what, I'll be your support from head office. I'm not going to jump onto the truck with you. I'm going to stay here. If you have any issues, please phone me. I'll sort it out from here, but I don't necessarily have to jump on the truck and go with you on this journey. I'm able to just take that step back and see, okay, where is the team? In which direction are they going, to see if they're going in the wrong direction. I can also say, well, okay, guys, you're maybe on a bit of a tangent here. I have just that step back that I can see where the team is operating from a bit of a more independent perspective. Now, your people's group, they're the individuals that say, okay, great, who's going to drive when? What's our driving schedule? We're going to be 8 people in the truck. Do we have blankets? Did John remember it's his wife's birthday while we're gone? Do we have enough food? So they're worried about the people aspect of it. They say, yes, it's a truck with supplies going, but we're going to be people in the truck driving and taking this up. So they naturally voice the people interaction that is applicable to this scenario. Your last subgroup is the one then in the center. It's your anchor group. And those are the individuals that's a middleman voice between all of these other diverse subgroups. So they say, okay, I hear what you said, action and task group. You wanted to start packing the truck, but we don't have that spare tire. And if we're going to go the new route as the adventure and change group suggested through Zambia, I think we should leave on Friday. Then everything is in place. We have the spare tire, we can go on the new route, and we'll have all of the blankets that the people's group requested. So it's that middleman voice bringing everything together to say they're very in touch with where the team is holistically to be able to fulfill that function. Now, the anchor group and the independent group is dependent on which are the other team members with me in this team. So if I think there's 15 individuals in this team. If we change those 15 individuals, take 5 of them out, it's going to shuffle this to say, okay, but what is the specific team dynamics now that we only have a smaller group? Or if you include more individuals, it's going to change that, because you know that team graph is dynamic and each individual added to it changes the actual graph of the team. Whereas something like the action and task group, that's one of the subgroups. If I'm either an action and task individual in a team or I'm not, because if I have these habits to that strong extent, I am naturally going to fulfill that function in any team you put me in, because I am going to highlight this from my side. My habits are going to prompt me to do this. Okay, so these are the team subgroups. A lot of valuable insight for this to the individuals working in this team or the individuals managing this team. You can request the report here by downloading the report, and then the subgroup is explained. It'll show you each of the individuals in that subgroup. show you the color of the subgroup, like we see there, the team strength. So it's in the report. You can download it here by using the download option or email it. And if you click on email, you can either email it to all of the team members or just a specific individual, someone like the manager. So yeah, it's part of the team report. That's the subgroup. We had now unpacked this in more detail. If you're curious about the rest of the team graph, as we said, please go and take a look at last month's webinar to see what the rest of this function is. Great. Okay, that was our second option, our second function for today. Now, the next question was also informed by the quiz, and the question was around the personal profile fields. So the question said, where on ShadowMatch can you capture the personal information of individuals, or information like their hobbies, their qualifications, and etc. So there's actually a very nice option to include this, that this information is part of your profile of the individuals. Let me show you where you can set that up. I just quickly need to switch my view again here. I'll share my screen just in a moment. I'm just going to log into a different company where there's a very nice way for me to show you this. Great. Just give me a moment. And off we go. And we go. Fantastic. Okay, let me share my screen again. So now I'm logged again into a fictitious company, but now we're in company ABC. And this is a function that you can either set up on the entire entity. So if you want to include this to say any individual receiving worksheet invitations within our entity should give us this information before they complete the worksheet, or you can set it up on a specific area, a specific function or role within your company. We call it a sub-entity. So let's say it's something that's only applicable to the administration and support option, then you can use this route. So you would click on the edit option, and now you're opening up the sub-entity. So you call it administration and support. You can edit the name here, and the screen we're going to be working on today is the second one, the worksheet settings. If I click on worksheet settings, I scroll down, and here you'll see an option that you might have never looked at before, but here we are. Let's take a look. So it says individual profile fields, and as you see, it's optional. So if this is something that you don't need, you're welcome to just completely ignore it on the system, but know it is there if you would like to use this value. So it explains to you that the standard fields that are automatically included in a worksheet invitation is the following. So an individual will be asked to complete their first name, last name, email, gender, year of birth, and country. The reason we ask for this information is to get the correct wording in the email, as in the instance of gender, to say referring to she, he, there's all the options the individual can choose the gender they identify with. And then year of birth is something, for instance, that's informing a career report because it's different for different age brackets. Also very diverse, or a few options for the individual to choose from. If they're not comfortable to share their age, or if they just want to give an age range, they also have that option there. But this is standard. If you just send a worksheet invitation, an individual will be asked to complete these details before they open up the worksheet. Now, if there's any other detail you also want to collect at this point, you can add it here. So there's a whole selection that we include from the system side. You're welcome to take a look at the list. So you can say if there's something like the identification number of an individual, you can simply click and let's add it to the list. Or you want to see their highest qualifications, simply click and add it to the list. So we have included a few options here, and this is obviously, there's a reason why you would want this information as part of your process with the individuals. So you can add any details that you need, and once it's added to the list, you can then choose, should it be compulsory or not? As default, you'll see it's set as compulsory, and there's a very nice description here explaining to you what does it mean if it's set as compulsory. In other words, the individual would have to complete this field before they can start on the worksheet. But let's say something like, okay, the mobile number, it's not a compulsory field, but you want to include it in the list. You can simply move the selector, and now it's included in the list. but it's not compulsory. So as you can see, very nice and custom. You can include what you want. If you want to remove something, you simply click it again and it's back to the list. If there's something that is not on this list, so it's not on the standard list, it's not on this list that we provide here, you even have the option to create a custom field. So something completely unique that you want to add, you click here and you say create, and then you add the detail there. So say for some instance, you wanted to know what their favorite color is. This is obviously a very silly example. You can add that to the list. And the moment you've added that, you can even add more. So as many of these fields as you want, you can make part of this process. Just be mindful, what's happening here is everything you add on the list, the individual is going to have to complete before they do the worksheet. So make sure there's a good reason for you including this in the list, that it's not just a friction point for them to go through the process. What's nice is any data that you've now captured here is then automatically saved on the individual's profile. So obviously this needed to be set up before you send out the worksheet invitation. So I can't set this up and now miraculously the system gets the information of individuals that have completed this beforehand. So typically you would do this step when you create that file. When you've now set up your file and say, okay, system and administration, you can do that on setup. Or if you've now learned about this today for the first time and you would like to include this for any new individuals completing the worksheet, you're welcome to go and edit it. Anybody else completing the worksheet in that file will also be then asked to complete this information. Okay, so that's setting it up on just a specific sub-entity. If there's a file that or a specific profile field that you would like to be applicable in the entire entity, so anybody completing in the entire company ABC, you can use this option here to say you open up your top menu and then you edit your company just as you've edited the sub file there. Here is your edit option, and you're also going to go to your worksheet setting page. It looks exactly the same, but the settings I put in here is then applicable to the entire entity. Okay, so just as you would prefer for your specific needs. And the last thing I just want to show you is what does it look like? Where would you find this information if it has been captured? So if I go to any individual and I open up their profile, so let's just open up Fred Flintstone's profile here. There would be the standard information automatically captured by the worksheet. And if anything else was added, it would be added to this list. You would have a section there. Obviously, there's no added information here because nothing was set up when Fred completed the worksheet. So great, there you have the information of your profile fields. As you see, you can completely customize it according to your needs. Okay, then we go to our very last function for today. This was also informed by a quiz question, and the function we're going to be looking at is the interview pack functionality on Shadowmatch. So the question in the worksheet quiz was, how many questions does the Shadowmatch interview pack generate for the interview panel? The answer is 10. So if you've never heard of the interview pack, let me show you where it is and how does it work. So let's go to customer support. And I'm going to go to my customer support agents. And this is a function that generates an interview pack that you can use with any applicants applying to a role within your organization. You're welcome to include this as part of your standard interview process. Maybe just use some of the questions and include that in your process. Or if you have no interview process, this can completely fulfill that function, and you can only use this and you can get all of the information you need using the interview pack guide. So I'm going to go to my list of applicants. So these are the individuals applying for this specific position. And if I'm using the best practice from Shadowmatch's side that Shadowmatch helps me to optimize my processes, I'm simply going to click this button here to say from my list of applicants, which were the individuals aligning the closest to my benchmark. And these are the individuals I'm going to invite to the interview. So instead of spending hours and hours and hours in interviews with individuals that will not be a sustainable fit in the environment, I say, great, the individuals that have that a contextual fit, let's create an interview pack for them. So in this case, let's use this individual at the top. If I open up the individual's results, I scroll down and I use my main list of buttons here at the bottom, and you'll see there's a button called interview. I click on interview. And now the system will guide me step by step to create this option. Let's see what the system asks me to do and take it from there. So I want to create my interview pack. Now it asks me, okay, interview with this individual, when and where, give me the details. So let's say it's going to be next week, Thursday. It's going to be at 8:30 a.m. and it's going to be at the head office. Obviously, you can then include the specific details of the address. Great, step one, done. Now, next step, it's asking me to create the interview panel. So if there's an entire panel of individuals that are going to be interviewing this individual, you can give each of the panel members an interview pack. Before the session, I've added 2 interview panel members for us. Let me just show you how easy it is to add someone else. So I'm adding an additional interviewer. I complete the details. Great. And then here you have an option to say, okay, what is the role of this individual? Why are they part of this interview panel? Let's say they're also in HR, they're a human resource representative. Great. Now I have a list of interview panel members that I can choose from. So step 2, done. Next step, now it's asking me, okay, who is actually going to be part of this interview? Select the members of the interview panel who will be interviewing this specific individual. So as you can see, it's customizable for the real life scenarios happening. Is the whole panel taking part of this? 2, how many? So let's say I'm selecting 2, Fred and Mike, they're going to be doing this specific interview. Mary is not going to be part of this process. I've done step 3. Step 4, now it's asking me, great, there's a whole panel. Who is the main facilitator? Just for the system to know where should it collate it. And now from the selected options, I say, great, Fred's going to be the facilitator for this. And then the next step is, am I happy? At this point, it's going to email the interview pack to these interview members. It just gives me that quick check to say, are you happy? Can we sort this out and send it through? Yes, that is what I wanted to create it. I say create and send interview back. Now there's a very nice summary of what is this interview, when is it coming up, who are the interview panel members, can edit anything if I need to. Let's take a look at the great pack that the individuals received in the panel. So the actual interview pack. Here I have an option to download it and open it from here. Great. So this is then specifically written for this interview member. So remember, the interviewer is receiving this pack and it gives them everything they need to conduct the interview with the individual. So an interview pack for this, interviewed by, all of the details, and very nice information about how to, okay, just the details of the session still. Very nice interview guidelines. How do you conduct an interview? So a lot of valuable information if this is the first time someone might be conducting an interview. And then we get to the actual value of this is the questions. So the questions in the interview pack are 10 specific focused questions highlighting the habits that are very important in this role. So an interview pack is informed by the benchmark of that role. Remember at the start of our discussion how important that benchmark is. If you have the benchmark for that role, you can understand what is the successful habits needed to fulfill that role successfully. So if your benchmark is in place, the system then generates 10 questions, helping you to focus on specific habits that are applicable actually in real life in this role. So instead of being general questions, something like, tell me about your strengths and weaknesses, and they get that prepared answer out, and it's actually of no value to you as the interviewer. It's a focused, targeted question to say, tell me about this specific thing. And it's not leading the individual in the correct direction to say, maybe it's let's take something like team and individual interaction. This might be a environment where there is a strong habit for individual inclination needed. And now then you're going to ask them specifically about this so that you can understand, but is the way they prefer to engage the environment, is it aligning with what's going to be expected of them in that environment actually in practice? And obviously you have the shadow match results as well. So now you can see what did they say in the interview, and what are their habits? Is there alignment in that? And then the whole interview process, if you've completed this, you can capture the details on the system. So from start to finish, from generating the questions to actually capturing the score and then generating a score for a shadow match interview process. You can do all of this on the system in the interview pack function. But the value in these questions to say it guides you in to get those questions that specifically focus on the habits that are important and not just general questions that actually waste your time as an interviewer. It's actually something that's going to be important for you to make this decision as an interviewer, and it values that individual to say, is this a sustainable fit? Is it aligning with their habits? Yes or no? Great. Okay, that is then the last function on the list, the interview pack. Please go and play around and see how easy it is to request it on your side. It's open. You can request it for any of the applicants within your file. As you saw, I set up all the details there with a few clicks of a button and sorted. Each interview panel member had their email, their interview pack in their inbox, ready for that interview. Okay, thanks, Lizette. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. That was an insightful webinar, a lot of great functionalities, and I'm sure some of the users have not used all of this to the extent that it can be used. So thank you very much for sharing. Please, if you have missed any of the previous sessions, you've now seen how valuable and full of content these sessions are. So please go back on your calendar and go and watch those webinars, those video recordings, so that you can really optimize the use of Shadowmatch in your environment, either as a consultant or as a client actively using the system. So thank you very much.